Him putting in that order was nothing to do with the courts even believing him. Welcome to the Live and More Academy YouTube channel, where we break down reality TV, social media, and celebrity gossip so you can get an understanding of toxic, narcissistic, and abusive dynamics and trauma, and what this can look like in real time. So if that sounds good to you, subscribe, hit that bell, and let's get into it. DDG and Halle and his recent court request, and how these types use children to control, because that's what it was. Straight out the gate, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, he's using the child to control the situation. So Halle got a restraining order against him and came out to say that the guy is abusive, right? Chipped her tooth, all the rest of it. I did a video about that. In fact, the first time I saw him playing down his triangulation, I knew he was abusive. I did a video about that about a year ago, saying that. So all of this is no surprise to me, not even slightly. If you want confirmation of that, go to my main feed where I did a video outlining exactly why he was abusive in that situation and how I believe he was going to be the problem. I went into it in a lot of detail. There's no missing it. So where are we? She gets a restraining order and full custody of Halo, who is, I still think, so cute. That baby is something else. He's so cute. Anyway, enough of that. Right, so she goes in, she says he's abusive, yada, 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 gives all the information. Judge goes, okay, restraining order, definitely. Full custody to you, absolutely. Right? He knows that she's going to go away for work and he's taking Halo. That was the whole thing. So a couple of days before she's supposed to go, he puts in a request for a restraining order or something like that.
Yesterday, we have reported that DDG had filed a motion to stop Halle from going to Italy with their son as of 6:42 a.m.
Because apparently Halle was a danger to his child. Now, bear in mind that Halle was going away for work. It wasn't a vacation. It wasn't anything like that. God forbid she was going for pleasure. She was going for work. So we're getting on to more sabotage, because remember, he got her pregnant to sabotage her. He also would release videos and film things revealing her stomach when she was trying to keep it a secret to sabotage her reputation. He was also super jealous and tried to warn everybody off around her from being around her to sabotage her career. There was a lot of things that he did, but now that she's broken up with him, face the reality of him being abusive, doesn't want anything to do with him. He's now using the child to further sabotage her career, because now she's got a contract. She's supposed to take him, and now he's going to make it as uncomfortable as possible. A lot of people in the beginning, when it first came out, were saying things like, oh, you know, wow, no, I don't understand why those that were in Halle's camp were saying things like, I don't understand why he's doing this. No one's going to take him seriously after X, Y, and Z. And I am here to tell you that is not the point. Him putting in that order was nothing to do with the courts even believing him. I mean, best case scenario in his mind, he's thinking, well, they believe me and I get to create more havoc. But actually, I just want to terrorize her. And I'm going to use the courts to do it. Because he's using Halle to try and stop her by 110%. He's doing it for that. But also, he's using Halle to keep her stressed out. Because even if the courts take no notice of the situation and throw it out, she's still got to go through the process of getting her lawyer involved. 3 days before she's got to go away, she's now got to get and do these last minute emergency things. That's why he left it to the last minute, because he wants to. This is what they do. They want to be a constant stressor in your life, even if what they claim is completely ridiculous. She still has to respond to it. That was the point of him doing it. Not to win, not to be believed in the court, maybe in the court of public opinion. Maybe he could use it to sway some weight that way, but just to be a nuisance. This is the type of thing that this is the type of thing that the narcissistic and abusive person will do. That is why you have to be very careful who you have kids with, because they will do it just to be a nuisance. And did you know, I chat GPT this because I didn't know. I suspected, but I didn't know for sure. Did you know that they will, what's going on here? I'm going to look at that later. Did you know that they could have halted and banned her from taking him whilst the court case was pending? They could have done that too. So that would have at least stopped her from being able to take him for that time, so massively inconveniencing her in that way. Even if they threw it out in the end, they could have chosen to stop the process of her taking him whilst the case was pending, causing more stress and frustration to her life. And this is what they live for. When they have lost control of you directly, they live for doing stuff like this. Using the courts, using the family, using whatever they can to frustrate and stress you out. Get you responding, get you doing things that you really have no time or no patience or anything to do. And this is what he's going to continue to do probably until his child is 18 and probably, well, I don't know if he can do it beyond, but, until his child is 18, which sucks for Halo. But let's keep going.
Pacific Standard Time, it stated that DDG's temporary restraining order against Halle has been denied. I guess he has to go back on Twitch and let the world know that he's a loser. Now, in the judge's ruling, it goes on to say that Halle is free to leave the country with their child for business and personal reasons. But we're going to rewind a little bit, because after DDG had filed that motion, Halle actually filed a reply. Now, after DDG had filed his motion, Halle and her attorneys came back and stated, I am requesting that the courts deny DDG. And they also stated that instead of the request from the courts to grant me permission to take my son to the country to perform my employment duties. Now, she goes on in this request and asks the judge to stop DDG, his family, and friends from posting about their son as well as herself online, including their litigation on all social media platforms listed above. Now, she stated that DDG had waited till June 4th to ask for custody orders and visits with their son since the issuance of the temporary restraining order. So basically, he was trying to clog up the courts. She goes on to state that she already has expressed that she had struggles with depression, anxiety, as well as thoughts of suicide. And she stated that without having to show her doctor's notes or anything like that, that she did receive the care to address those issues. Finally, she finishes out her statement and says that she has been and remains to be 100% available and capable parent to their son. And finally, she states, if he was truly concerned about my parenting, why wait till June 4th to file this motion? Because was it truly about her parenting, or were you really trying to stop her from going to Italy? And was it really about control?
It was all about control, and not even so much about control over stopping her from getting her money, because she's just going to have to leave Halo and go about doing it. It's about control over her well-being, her mindset, and having control over that. He wants to maintain control over being able to stress her out in some way. And if Halo isn't with her, he knows that's going to stress her out. He also knows that's going to add a couple of extra steps to whatever she's got to do while she's working. He knows all of this. This is his lot in life. This is what he wants to do. Guys, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.
DDG releasing text of Halle Bailey crashing out. DDG filed an emergency custody order claiming that Halle was not mentally well enough to take care of their child. Texts have been released. These are allegedly from Halle, and if they are, she was definitely crashing out. You left me hanging as a mother. You won't step up when I need you to. I'm begging you. I just found out you slept with Lala in Mexico. I'm going to delete myself. I don't like you forever. You can have him and let her be his mom. He says, I can't believe you're acting like this. She said, you put your thing in her mouth in Mexico. And I guess she was blowing him up, telling him to answer the phone. Now from there, he says, if you don't answer the phone, it's over forever. I'm not playing, Daryl. He says, I just want to be left alone, please. She says, I'm calling for help. I have a KNIFE.
Right, hang on a minute. So she's accusing him of cheating, and instead of him dealing with the situation, he just wants to be left alone. And this is his way of, de-escalating the situation. Are we actually being for real? That is your way of de-escalating the situation. When someone is saying that you were cheating, instead of addressing and having a discussion about it, you just want to be left alone. Don't go for this, ladies. When you hear stuff like this, understand that they are actually just trying to deflect the situation and leave you hanging. When you hear someone telling the story to someone else, put it like that, because this is what they'll do. They'll tell the story to someone else, like he's doing with the judge, and paint themselves out to be the victim, when in actual fact, why are you trying to exit a conversation that is causing someone else emotional upset and distress, someone that you're supposed to love, by saying that you just want to be left? Are we okay? That's ridiculous. But let's keep going.
On to tell her to put the KNIFE down. She says, you have ruined me and all my happiness. You hang up when I'm begging you for help. Only help I used to have. And your only focus is being famous and having money. You don't even see what you have in front of you. You go to Mexico and be with someone else. How can you openly talk smack about me and all the women you want to smash? Our text from DDG claiming that Halle had his GUN. He was going to call the police. She quote unquote wanted to do something stupid. I cannot lie. I did not know their relationship was this tumultuous. This is definitely a lot. I'm curious to know what y'all think about this. Let me know in the comments. Peace.
I think that's him stressing her out again, is what I think. Standard behavior. Doing something outrageous, not giving her any closure or any answer, and making her spiral, allowing her to spiral, let's put it like that. Because she's going to spiral. Any woman in her right mind is going to spiral in that situation. Pause. I want to take a moment to encourage you to join our Warrior Living support group, where we decenter toxic, narcissistic, and generally abusive dynamics and commit to living a healthier, toxic-free lifestyle. Link in description box.
I've been quiet long enough. I've seen DDG's court filings, and his fans have been loud, wrong, and misogynistic ever since. So here's what y'all clearly missed, since reading comprehension is clearly not y'all strong suit. I waited to speak on this because, unlike y'all, I don't speak on half the story. I've seen the text messages, I've read the filings, and I wanted to have all the facts before I opened up my mouth. Because once you say something wrong, DDG's fans will gaslight you and do the most, even with facts. Let's clear one thing up. Telling someone that I will abort this baby if we're not together is literally not coercion. That is literally autonomy. She didn't want to settle to be a single mother.
I want to kind of disagree with that one. If we're not together, could be interpreted as coercion. Now, that's not me taking sides. That's just me keeping the main thing. Because now you're saying on the conditions that, we are together, I am willing to do this. If not, which is, I think, is a fair statement to make. But the way that she said it could be interpreted as coercion. If he's saying, I really want this baby, and she's saying, well, if you want this baby, we need to be together. That could be interpreted as coercion, really, because otherwise I'm going to threaten, but this is what she's doing, right? You can interpret it as her threatening to get rid of something he really wants, which is coercion. There's no two ways around it. There's no two ways around that. Now, had she had said, you know what, I don't want to be a single parent, still would have been the same thing. I was going to say, had she had said, I don't want to be a single parent, so if that's the case, then I'm going to abort. It's still the same thing. You're still threatening if you don't get the terms that you want. It's pretty much the same thing. Threatening to do something that the other person doesn't want. What she should be doing is making, now, even in her saying that, she's just being very, very naive. All women at all times should be making the decision of whether they have a child or not based on whether they want to have a child or not. Man around or not. Point blank, period. Because men will say a lot of things and make a lot of promises and then just not do them. And where are you going to be? So you should be making that decision based on whether you want a child, whether you're with that person or whether you're going to do it as a single parent. Think of yourself as a single parent and ask yourself if you really want to do that. Because if it's a no to being a single parent, then you really don't want to do it at all. Because you don't want to bring a human into the world on the promise or in the hopes that you're going to be in a relationship. That's not, that's not a thing. Human being, you bring a human being into the world. You can't take it back at Christmas. You know what I mean? So we need to be thinking about this from a more stable point of view when it comes to making that decision.
So she said, if we're not going to be together, I'm going to get rid of the baby. For all of this, she should have did it. Anyway, once again, that is not coercion, that is a boundary. She's saying she's not going to do this alone. That is autonomy, that is not manipulation. The second thing I want to touch on is emotional distress does not equal narcissism. And what's mind-boggling to me is the narcissist is right in y'all face, and then y'all saying Halle's the one that's narcissistic. And then y'all, as his fans, are gaslighting and bullying and dogpiling on her, further being narcissistic, which is also y'all doing his dirty work for him, further abusing her on his behalf. But that's neither here nor there. Now, she did say some serious things like threatening to harm herself, and I'm not excusing that because that's never okay. However, let's be real. Those messages read as if it's someone who is emotionally spiraling, not manipulating someone. That is mental health breaking down under pressure. Y'all can only
I agree with all of that. Yeah. Just that bit about coercion, technically not correct, but I agree with everything she's saying here.
Understand these things when it's y'all. I noticed that. What I also want to touch on is how disgusting it is for how many of you men are getting up here talking about women who just gave birth and women who have postpartum depression. It is very disgusting, especially that old ass YouTuber nigga who's older than fucking Halle, almost a decade older than her, talking about, I don't care if you had postpartum. That was disgusting, and y'all are disgusting, especially when y'all have mothers. Y'all are very dishonorable men. Postpartum is not just some excuse. 1 in 8 women suffer from postpartum depression. It's not just sadness. It's suicidal ideations, rage, isolation. It's all of those things. This woman just gave birth, was getting cheated on, dragged by the public, and was in isolation. How would y'all react? And here is the very man who is causing all of this chaos getting mad at the reaction. So there's the reactive abuse alone. Niggas want heaven in a place where they literally create hell. Most of these messages are from 2022 and 2023, before she even had Halo. So if she was such a threat, if she was so dangerous, if you was so scared, why didn't you file a police report back then? If you really thought she was crazy, harmful, or whatever, why would you stay? Isn't that the question y'all always ask us? Why would you stay? Especially if you thought your child's safety. That makes no sense to me. You thought your child's safety was at risk, and you never filed for full custody, nothing, a police report, nothing. You took penitentiary chances with your child's life. Right. Because this was never about protection. This was all about control and retaliation. He only went to court after she did. Like, imagine filing a restraining order on somebody that already don't want to be around you. If he was so scared, he would have literally filed first himself. Instead, he waited, and when she took legal action, he started
And he waited
to do damage.
And he waited to the last minute to add that stress. He waited to the last minute.
Control. Let's also talk about the court outcome. He didn't even get what he actually wanted, which was to stop Halle from taking Halo out the country to Italy. That was denied, and all he got was a temporary restraining order, and that is standard in situations like these. That is not a win. That is literally a delay tactic. And then that message from that night Halle was outside his house with Halo proves how reckless he is. Not only that, it undermines his entire case, but she's outside his crib. She's in distress. She says, take the baby. We're outside in the cold. She not gonna come in because he already wouldn't let her in the house. She was in distress. Fine, but take the baby. He says, just go home. I'll come get him later. He set out his mouth. They live 2 hours away. So if she's in distress, if she's so crazy and you're worried about his safety, that gives 4 hours because you have to drive 2 hours down to her house to go get him. That gives her 4 hours to crash out and do something harmful to herself or him. You didn't care. You wasn't worried about it.
No, he did care. He wanted her to crash out. That's why he told her to take the baby and go home. But he knew she wasn't going to crash out enough to do anything. But she was going to crash out enough to be upset enough because that's where he lives. He lives that terrorizing her and frustrating her. Okay?
So this undermines your entire case because you thought she was so unstable and was so harmful, but you left your child in her care. Him sending that message, just go back home, I'll come get him later, literally backfired on him. And let's not ignore his jealousy where he's crying about having to watch her kiss a man in a movie. Then don't watch it. That's her job. She's an actress. She's supposed to not eat because of you. He worried about her kissing men in movies. He's sitting here kissing and screwing girls in real life. You're really cheating. So what are you talking about? That's what I'm saying. You accusing me of cheating. You're mad at me for this, that, and the third. But you're literally cheating. You're literally doing all of this stuff. Y'all be acting. That's what I'm talking about. Narcissists can literally drive you to insanity. And y'all are like, no. That's because you haven't experienced it. I'm telling you, it's because I haven't experienced it. So my final thing is this whole thing wasn't about safety. It was about control. He waited until she
100%.
did something, then tried to spin the narrative like she was the monster. And now his fans are gaslighting everyone just like he does. Once again, further continuing the narcissism flying monkeys and further continuing the abuse to Halle. If you're defending a man who emotionally neglected a woman, cheated on her during postpartum, and used her mental health against her, you're just as nasty as he is.
And here's the thing. It is about control, but not in the way, like I said, it's about controlling her well-being and her sense of self. He's going to do he's the little irritating bug. He's going to do everything he can to press those buttons. He's a little irritating bug. That's it. That's what he's going to do, like he has been doing the entire relationship. Now he's using Halo to do it. That's all. Using Halo, the court system, and whatever he can to keep on pressing that button and making her life unpleasant for her. Are you going from one toxic dynamic to another? Or are you committed to getting rid of the toxicity in your life, but lack the support from family or friends? Or maybe you have the support, but lack the know-how. Or are simply self-isolating after a toxic, narcissistic, or abusive dynamic. If any of this describes you, come join our Warrior Living support group. This group offers daily affirmations, practical resources that encourage toxic-free living, CBT-based self-help challenges, regular just for the fun of it online group activities, and more. So sign up today and get lifetime access for a one-time payment of just £5.99. No woman left behind.